friends. This is part two of Katelyn's healing journey with motherhood, identity, grief, and postpartum depression. If you haven't listened to part one, please go back and listen to part one. And then this part two, we go a little bit deeper into grief and we talk about some visions that she's gotten from God that are super encouraging. So I hope this episode encourages you like it did me.
You've been through these different areas of grief and found, what it's like to be honest with God when you're mad at him and say, like, I'm just going to tune you out, right? And then realized I do need you and to come back to him. Do you feel like he was the main one that helped you overcome grief, or do you feel like it was a community effort?
Yeah, I think it's actually a little bit of both. So there's no way that we can overcome grief in our own strength. There's just none. It's consuming, it's slippery, it gets into everything, it affects everything. And we don't have the strength in us to be able to get past things like that. And so we need to be able to lean on God. And so trying to do it on my own and failing miserably, going down in a blaze of glory, and then coming back to God and just submitting myself to him and saying, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to be brutally honest. There were some days that we'd be sitting in prayer and I'd be triggered by something somebody else said. And it was really my grief, but like the outward expression was anger. And he's like, do you want to talk about it? And I'm like, no, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want it because I know you're going to try to make me feel better. And I just want to be angry right now. And he's like, okay, come talk to me when you're ready. And then usually 10 minutes go by and I'm just like, okay, what do you want to say? And it it showed me that there's only so much to my tether before I need him to step in and help hold me up the rest of the way. And that being able to lean fully on him, learning how to lean fully on him while still functioning, I think has kept me upright. We found out right after Father's Day that we were pregnant with our third child, and then we found out at 7 weeks that the baby had stopped growing, that the heartbeat had stopped. And I've had friends who've had miscarriages. I actually have a friend, two different families I know that have had four, and I couldn't even imagine because this has been one other than my mom's death. And in some ways, I think this has been even harder to walk through because with my mom passing away, while it was extremely traumatic to see her decline so quickly, she had, and I say this with a grain of salt because I don't want to downplay what anybody else is going through. This is just my own grief journey. She had lived I think she was robbed. I think the cancer robbed her of living out the rest of her life and seeing her grandchildren, but she had lived such a full, vivacious life. She had really taken everything on and had run after it. And not being able to see my children grow up is heartbreaking. However, losing our son, which God showed me a vision of him later, and that was confirmed through words of affirmation my husband had, and another vision another prophetic person had at our church, that we did indeed have a son. It's that loss of the dream of seeing your child grow up, of seeing their face, of seeing their siblings, seeing my daughter no longer being the youngest, but now becoming an older sister, and Amos to having a little sister and a little brother. And that it hurts. It hurts. And it's hard. And looking at my own body and just wondering why I could carry two healthy babies, but not a third, and really struggling with the body image issues that are coming back up, and struggling with, to some degree hating myself that I couldn't carry our son. But knowing through walking through what I have walked through and the relationship through the nitty gritty, through screaming at God, through pounding on his chest, through throwing angry, just streams, verbal vomit on him, and knowing that he can carry all of that and me and all of my tears and still be sovereign and still be good and still have a purpose in my life and have a purpose for my son. We may have lost him at 7 weeks, but here I am able to share my testimony with him and share that he is in heaven. He is alive. He's singing in the choir.
Yeah.
And having that testimony to share with people. If I hadn't have gone through what I did with my mom, I don't think I would be relatively okay to walk through this. And I would have internalized all of this. of God doesn't love me. God hates me. Why would a loving God allow my child to die? Well, my child did not survive. That is the fact. However, the greater truth of all of that is only God knows the reason why. And it is not fair of me to be angry with him when I don't actually know all the facts. I don't actually know the whole picture. That is just my own personal. If anybody listening is walking through or has walked through a miscarriage, please know that my heart breaks for you and I am praying for you. And nothing that I am saying is to belittle anything that you have gone through or felt. Just know that there's a God who loves you and who weeps with you, who wept when your child died, who weeps when that child comes into heaven because he wanted that child to be with you. And I don't have the answers. I don't know why. Our son, we named him David. I don't know why David wasn't able to stay with us, but I will one day. And I will see him again in heaven and I will dance with him and we will have the biggest play date and build Legos up past the heaven. We will run and we will dance and it will be beautiful. I just have to wait.
And your mom is getting time with him
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Are you able to explain a little bit more? You had said you had seen your mom, what it would be like if she was on this earth still
Yeah.
with the condition that she had, and then versus how she's operating in heaven right now.
Yeah.
Can you explain that vision a little more? And then also the one with your son,
Yeah.
like with his experience?
So with my mom, I had two visions with her that were very life-changing. The first one was right after she had died. It was the week that we were planning the memorial, and I was just crying myself to sleep every night and just begging for her to come back. And I remember falling asleep, and I truly believe that God took me up to heaven. We do have experiences like that where he does show us glimpses of that and allow us to come into it if that is his desire. And I woke up and it was daylight and I could smell bacon, which is one of my favorite food groups, being cooked downstairs and hear music. And I was just like, well, that's weird because I just went to sleep and it was nighttime. And so I got up and I walked downstairs, and in the house I grew up in, it was a townhouse, 3 levels. We would walk down the stairs and the kitchen would be right there, but there was a standalone pantry. So you couldn't really see like what was going on in the kitchen unless you came around the 2 sides. And I heard somebody cooking bacon and I walked in and I just stopped because it was my mom. And she had all of her hair. She looked younger. Her skin didn't have that gray pallor that cancer victims when they're going through chemo get. It wasn't waxy. It was youthful. And she turned around. She was like, "Hi." And I went, what are you doing here? Like, what's happening right now? And she just looked at me and she said, "I'm making your dad bacon." And then her eyes got really intent as she looked at me and she said, "I want you to know I'm okay." And I woke up and it was nighttime. And that was an angelic dream. I cried again. I cried myself to sleep, but it was a different kind of cry. It wasn't so much one of just deep agony and pain. It was one of pain and sorrow, but also a little bit of joy, I would say, looking back on it, that God had chosen for her to come and talk to me. And then it was years later when I was back here in the state in Virginia, and I just was really struggling. I really needed my mom and I was angry. I don't remember what had happened, but I was angry and I was just like, "God, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why you didn't just heal her." We had people praying to Australia. We had people breaking down the pearly gates praying for her. Why didn't you answer our prayers? And I was angry. And God showed me in that moment, I think it might have been during worship service. It just was split second. He showed me my mom completely comatose, just a vegetable in a wheelchair. And we were around her and we were showing her stuff in the garden, but there was drool coming out the side of her mouth. She couldn't do anything. She was just a vegetable. And then he showed me her in heaven. And she was what she looked like in my dream. She was vibrant. She was youthful. She was alive. She was laughing. She was with her parents who had passed. She was with my cousin who had died in a very tragic hiking accident when I was in college. He fell off the side of a mountain. And she was alive and she was full of life. And he basically kind of schooled me. He was like, "Which would you prefer?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't want my mom to not, like, be my mom." And he said, "Then I need you to understand that I did heal her. It just didn't look like the way that you had expected it to." And it was that
Yeah.
expectation that I was angry about. It was I was
Mhm.
expecting God to swoop in and heal her and restore her, and he does do that. He does do
Mhm.
that. There are miracles where he does that. But in this moment, because of the continued heartache that I think our family would have gone through if she had pulled out of it, because the cancer was in her brain and she just would have been brain dead. Like she would have been with us, but not with us. There would have just been continual pain. And in this way, he was able to spare us. And with David, when he passed, there was a lot of that same, I just want my son back. I don't understand. I want him to be whole and healed. And we had people praying for resurrection in the womb, and which is a beautiful prayer. If you have friends who are praying that way, don't ever ask them to stop because it's a beautiful prayer. And it was after the first ultrasound, and I think it was that night. And I just like, Lord, I need to see him. Like, I need to see him because the ultrasound can say that he is dead and that he is not growing. But if you show me where he is, if you show me he's in the womb, then I will believe in resurrection. If you show me that he's in heaven, then I will trust that he has passed on and we will see him again one day. And in a split second, he showed me our son with his mop of curly hair and big rosy cheeks just playing in a fountain. And he was just kicking his feet in the water and he was laughing. And through the water droplets, I could see his face. And right next to him, seated on the edge of the fountain, just beaming, I could see Jesus. And I
Aw.
could see the joy on Jesus' face. And I heard the Lord say, "We will keep him safe until you can hold him in your arms again."
Wow.
And it broke me, but it was such a healing moment of peace and of knowing that regardless of what happens here on earth, my son
Mhm.
is safe and well and alive and with the
Wow.
Father, and I will get to see him again. And that was confirmed just a week later, 2 weeks later, by a lady in our church who had a vision of him singing in the choir. My
Aw.
husband, yeah, we're a big musical family. My husband is a pastor and the worship pastor at our
Okay.
church. He's one of the three pastors, and he's also the worship pastor. So music, my kids and I listen to music every day. She just said it makes sense. You know, music is in your DNA. It's in your family's DNA. And she said he was the most beautiful little boy and had the most beautiful singing voice. And he's up there in the choir praising God every day. And I wanna ask for more. I mean, clearly any mother who has ever gone through a miscarriage or any family who has or an aunt or an uncle of somebody who has a father, like, they just want your child to be back with you, but I don't know what his life would have been like. I don't know why he passed. There's no doctors don't know why miscarriages happen, but I trust that God is sovereign and his plan is good and right and true, even when things suck
Yeah.
and are hard. He's still a good father and knows the big picture we can't see.
And I'm sorry for all that. That is,
Mm.
I can't imagine as a mom how to navigate that and go through that. I'm glad that God showed you your son in heaven and then also your mom. You had said with your mom, did you ask for him to show you something with her? Because with your son, you had said you had asked, can I see
Yeah.
him with your mom? Did you do the same thing or was it just kind of something that God showed you?
I think it was something that God showed me. I don't remember the entire conversation from where the vision came out, but I think I was just angry and I was just like, I need to know why. Like, I need to know why she's not here. I'm in my mid 20s. I still need my mom. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I need to know why she's not here. And then he showed me those pictures and I was like, well, I understand now why she's not
Yeah.
here. It was also really a humbling moment for me of understanding that it is okay to question God. It is okay to question him when you don't understand things, but being angry at him when you don't understand things isn't always the best is sometimes a misplaced emotion. I think we as humans, when we are wounded, we often turn to anger. I think anger is often the outward emotion of a wound. And I see that in myself a lot of I'm really angry.
Yeah.
Okay, what's hurting?
Yeah.
What's wrong in my heart? What do I need to take before the Lord and have him to speak truth into so that I can not be so angry?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. How long do you feel like it takes normally when you identify the anger and ask God for help?
Mhm.
How long does it normally take to work through that? Or is it different each situation?
I think each situation is different. We all carry core wounds. We all carry core hurts that are get rubbed often. And so one of my deep, deep, deep wounds is rejection. And that is one that often when I'm angry, I'm kind of like, okay, like what's feeling rejected in me? Like why, like what's going on in this? And sometimes it's there's a great phrase about unforgiveness because anger can often lead to unforgiveness, and unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So you're just hurting yourself. And I've had my moments where God's like, this rejection wound is rubbed up by this person and they didn't mean to do it. And you got to forgive them. And I'm just like, I don't want to. And he's like, why? And it's that self-reflection of because I just want them to hurt. And he's like, they don't know that they hurt you. Like they don't understand that. And so you need to forgive them. And so there's layers with some stuff. Like there's wounds that happened to me, I mean, when I was in like elementary school, and with bullying or somebody said something or somebody at church said something and that stuck. And then that's just built over the years. And so God has to kind of peel back the layers to get to the root of it. And sometimes I have to forgive the same person for the same thing multiple times because there's layers to it. And then there's other times that I'm ready to forgive and it just takes one and I can move on. But I think it's those core wounds. I think it's those core hurts and those core things because unfortunately the enemy doesn't wait until you can talk to start speaking lies to you. He starts
Mhm.
hitting you early stages, like in the womb. He starts hitting
Yeah.
people. And that was where my first rejection wound happened was when I was still in my mommy. And so that's something that I struggle with and will probably struggle with my whole life. Just now it hits differently. And sadly, the enemy is not smart, but he is crafty and he
Yeah.
finds new ways. If he can't hurt me, he's going to hurt me through my kids. He's going to hurt me through my husband. He's going to hurt me or he's going to hurt somebody that I love and then I take it on. And that's just so it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's right away, and then other times it's just a continual process of
Okay,
having to
that
lay
makes
this
sense.
down and then not taking it back.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's like forgiveness too, right? Like a continual process. Somebody hurts you maybe like 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So it's okay, I have to forgive you again and
Yeah.
again
And
and
again,
again.
and as parents, oftentimes the hardest people to forgive are ourselves and unfortunately our children. It can be
Mhm.
really hard to forgive our children. But thankfully, whenever we go to God and we just say, I'm struggling with this, Lord, I want to forgive this person, He will always help you. Like, even if you're angry at God, and you want to tell him that you're mad at him, he's a gentleman. He's gonna listen and he's gonna work with you through it because a beautiful thing when you read the New Testament and you look at Jesus's miracles is he always looked at the heart first, and then it was the physical that followed. And it was a healing of somebody's sins that allowed the physical healing to manifest
Mhm.
afterwards. And so God is always, always, always concerned with our heart condition and making sure that our hearts are okay. Because when our hearts are okay and walking in step with the Lord and in tune with Him, that's how we can be better missionaries for the gospel.
Wow. So I need to have you back on. You've got so much stuff I want to like keep
Oh,
getting into
you.
because you're a wealth of knowledge and
Oh,
it's so
yes.
helpful and encouraging. So hopefully I can have you back
Yeah,
on.
I'd love
We'll
to.
dissect
Yeah.
some more of this
You
stuff.
asked amazing questions.
Yes. And then so can we talk about your books
Yeah.
a little bit? Okay,
Yes.
as we wrap things up.
Yeah.
So do you want to show what your books are and kind of
Mm.
explain them a little bit?
So I'll give a little bit of backstory and then I'll show the books. So in 2017, I had been really really rewalking with the Lord, because I said I gave my life to Christ when I was 5, but I really fell in love with God, truly deeply head over heels with him in 2013 after my mom's death and hearing my identity and getting healed up of just a ton of stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. And at the end of 2017, I think it was November, December, God started speaking author over me. And I was like, bro, my mom might have been a reading specialist, but I failed English. I could not tell you a verb from an adjective. I don't know what a participle is. I don't know any of
Me
that.
neither.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. And he just kept speaking it. It kept coming up in prayer sessions, other people. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe like I'm supposed to write a book about my journey through losing my mother and being the prodigal son and all of that kind of stuff. And then in 2018, at the end of January, it was actually the last Saturday in January. I remember the day. I had a fully immersive dream that woke me up. And this was a dream where I could smell, I could taste, I could feel. I mean, it was as real as the dream with my mom of like the Lord took me someplace. And I woke up and I think my first thought was, what did I eat last night? Did I have too many spicy tacos? What was it? And then my second thought almost immediately afterwards was, what in the heck was that? And so I just kind of went about my day. But for about a week, I could not get the dream out of my head. And so I wrote it down because I had learned in my walk that if there is a thought or a vision or a dream that sticks with you, there is something in it that the Lord wants to tell you. Like there's a reason those things are with you. So I wrote the dream down. And I even have the paper still saved. And I looked at it and I said, okay, Lord, what is this? And he goes, it's a book. And I went, okay. And I reread the dream and I kind of read between the lines and I went, okay, you gave me 5 books to write, not just one, but a 5-book series. And essentially, the book series that has come out is called The Providence Chronicles. The first book, City of End, is here. It is a Chris Lit International Book Award winner, and it also took 3rd place in published young adult fiction with ACFW, which is American Christian Fiction Writers Kidlit Kingdom contest, which is a contest for Christian authors who publish books that are board books up to young adults. So I got 3rd place.
Oh my
in
gosh,
published.
congratulations.
Thank you.
What would you say is the starting age to read that?
I would say 12, but
12?
I've had kids as young as 9 read it and really enjoy it. They just didn't get some of the themes. So the premise of the book series, and this is the second one, City of Truth,
Awesome.
which released on June 19th. So it's
I
my
love the
baby book.
cover.
Thank you. My cover artist is amazing. She's so good.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working on the 3rd book in the series right now. So I'm really excited about that. But the book wrote it all out in 2018. I actually self-published City of End first, and that got really good reviews, but the Lord really led me down a path in 2020 when the pandemic was starting. My husband and I got married in 2019. We actually met in 2018 and then got married in 2019.
Yeah, mine was fast too.
Okay, yeah. When you know, you know. That's a cliche, but it is 100%. But the Lord led me to the Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference. And there I really felt he wanted me to rewrite the book series and find a publisher. So I ended up rewriting the book. And in 2024 or 2023, I guess, I signed with Elk Lake Publishing Inc. for the first book.
Awesome.
And that came out in October of 2024. And earlier this year, the second book came out, and I'm working on the 3rd. Hoping to one day get an agent just to help get the book out to more places. A lot of the feedback that I get on it is that it reads like a TV series or a movie.
How cool.
Yeah. So the premise of the series, just to give people a little bit of an idea, it is an allegory of Revelation. So I don't shy away from tough topics. It's dystopian, so it's futuristic, set in the year 4085, and in it, what's left of mankind, because the surface of the earth was destroyed in a nuclear holocaust, they're all living in underground cavern cities that are like little mini arcs, and they're being hunted by the living embodiment of the seven deadly sins. So
Wow.
there's action. There's no like spice or language in it, so parents don't have to worry about that. But there is death, there is sin, there are dark places that these characters go, because my goal with it being an allegory of Revelation is to show that mankind can go to some pretty dark places, but if we submit ourselves to God, because there is God figure in the book, there is a creator and all that, that there's nothing he can't save us from. And
Yeah.
in order to show the saving grace of God in this type of book series, I needed to allow it to go to some places.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, I mean, I haven't had anybody say this was too much for me, or this like
Mm-hmm.
freaked my kid out or anything like that. I just want to let people know that there's a couple death scenes and there's big battles. But if you think like Lord of the Rings style
Yeah.
epic fighting, your
Yeah.
kid can handle that, then there shouldn't be any issue.
Yeah. I'm gonna check them out. They're on
Yay!
Amazon?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So City of End is the first one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then it's Katelyn. How do you say your last name?
So think
Pfeiffer.
of
Okay.
Michelle Pfeiffer, but sadly we're not related.
Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna
Yeah.
definitely check that out. That sounds
Thank you.
so interesting. And I love that it's coming from a dream God gave you. Really quick, and
Crazy.
then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned, has God always spoken to you this way in like dreams and visions, or did it start when you saw the vision of your mom?
No, I think the Lord has always spoken to me through dreams. I'm now, this isn't based in scripture. This is just my own personal walk, but I'm a firm believer that part of the reason we should be putting on the spiritual armor, and one of the times we should be doing it, is before bed, because I think
Okay.
dreams and what gets awakened in your mind when you sleep, when your defenses are down, is a very, very vast spiritual word round.
Okay.
I've always haven't had an overactive imagination. I can share this on another podcast, but
Yes, I would love to hear.
my story to coming to Christ when I was 5 years old was Godzilla.
Oh,
I
wow.
was terrified he was actually destroying the world, and I did not want to go to hell. So
Wow.
at 5 years old, I was brought to Christ by a monster movie marathon of Godzilla
Wow.
on TV. I've always had a very active imagination. I've always just been like interested in what is out there. And my imagination goes places, which unfortunately led to some pretty dark dreams growing up and being plagued by a lot of nightmares, but also very vivid, beautiful dreams too. And so I think that the Lord has always talked to me that way. But this dream for sure was like, hey, there's a book series that I want you to write, and I'm
Yeah.
going to deposit this little teeny tiny scene in it, because I think he knew that I was ready. Like I said, he's the big picture guy. So he knew what was going to come. And now I'm getting to talk to people about God and about my books, and I'm getting to bring the gospel message of salvation and revelation in an avenue that is not, it's just not scary. Like,
Yeah.
you can read a book, and if you don't like what's in it, you don't have to keep reading it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be offended if people don't like my books, because
Yeah.
they were written for a higher purpose. And if
Yeah.
people don't like it, then there's plenty of books that I've read that I'm just like, I liked it, but not for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the people that it is for will read it and God can speak to them through that. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And it is amazing, and it's humbling. And the doors that he's opening are just, my husband and I we're like, this is our ministry. This
Yeah.
is, and I call it my legacy when I'm talking to the kids, and they're just like, Mommy's legacy, Mommy's legacy. And they get really excited,
Oh.
and they know that I'm not doing this, for myself, that I'm doing this for God. And I have to be submitted to that, to whatever he has. And I mean, everybody dreams, like, I think every author dreams of being the next New York Times bestseller and being able to retire and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But honestly, my main hope for these books is just to bring a message of truth to
Mhm.
everybody. And then if we can get to the point where we can travel and spread the message to all corners of the earth, or, my husband can work a job that he enjoys versus having to work because
Yeah.
of it, that would be amazing. But
That's
we'll see what God
amazing.
has.
I don't feel so bad now ending this interview because I want to talk to you
Oh
more.
no. We will definitely have to get together again. This has been a
Yes,
lot of
we
fun.
do. And if you're comfortable with it, like dive into this, like how you hear from God in your dreams and your visions and
Yeah,
kind
let's
of
do it.
dissect it more because I'm fascinated by it, like when God
Mm.
shows us things that way.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be helpful for people too to like realize what are their dreams saying?
Yeah.
Or does God use my dreams? Is this a dream I
Mm.
should be writing down? Is this just like a normal emotional dream? Like what's going on? So I'd
Yeah.
love to kind of, if you're available, dissect that more because that's a great topic.
Oh, yeah. I love talking about that stuff. If people are dreaming, get a dream journal, write it
Yeah.
down. Like, I know my husband, I know we have to end on time, so I'll make this short. My husband he hears very differently from the Lord than I do, but that's good because
Yeah.
we balance each other out. The times that he has dreams, I'm always like, "Ooh, what do you think God was trying to say to you through that?" Because that's not really his normal way of hearing. Whereas I'll be like, "I had a crazy dream. Like, you want to hear about my
Yeah.
dream? I think it's another book." And he's just like, "What happens in your brain when you go to sleep?" And I'm like, "I don't know, stuff."
But it's fun.
Yeah, there's a party going on up there. But the way that he hears, I'm fascinated by because I'm like, I don't hear that way. Like, so that's so cool that you do. And it's really beautiful when we need confirmation. Like he trusts that when I say I heard this from the Lord, that he's heard it because he's seen it time and time again in our 6 years of marriage of like the Lord said this to her and she was obedient and it came true. And so he's seen that because I'm also the kind of person that once the Lord says, this is what you need to do, and I know that I know that I know, I'm like, great, let's do it. Like, why are we even looking back? Let's just go forward. The Lord said it
Yeah.
would happen. What do we need to do? And my husband's a little bit more pragmatic than I am. And he's like,
Yeah.
wait, we have kids, we have a house.
Yeah.
We can't just move to Switzerland, even though I know you really want to. Like, let's make sure that so we balance each other out. But yeah, if people are even visions during the day, if you're out talking to somebody and you get a picture that comes
Mhm.
up and you're just like, what was that? Write it down.
Mhm.
Like, and ask the Lord later and he'll tell you. He'll tell
Yeah.
you.
I love that so much. Thank you so much,
You're
Caitlin. I
welcome.
loved talking with you, getting to know you more. And yes, if we can do this again
Mhm.
and dive into some of this other stuff, that would be amazing.
I'd love to. I would
So,
definitely
do you
love
have
to.
any closing thoughts for somebody that's maybe just going through grief right now?
Mm.
Maybe something traumatic happened. Do you have advice for that person?
I think this might sound counterintuitive, but I would say do what you need to do to protect yourself. So, the reason I say that is when you're going through grief, when you're going through something traumatic, you're very raw. You're ripped
Mhm.
wide open. Every little thing, I mean, and that wound is not clean. It's frayed. Every piece of you feels like it's on fire, and every little thing can set you off. You have to protect yourself. And by protect yourself, I mean you need to surround yourself with people who are going to be positive, who are not going to judge you, who are going to walk with you through it, and who are not going to be a negative voice in your ear, whatever that looks like. And just be willing to be open and honest, and also be willing to hear from people who are saying, I'm worried that what you're feeling or sensing or going through could become a stumbling block for the Lord. So let's go and pray about it.
Mhm.
But don't isolate yourself. I know I said protect yourself, but I just mean protect your heart from further attack from the enemy, from negative voices that may then create you to have a negative outlook on what the Lord might be trying to heal in you in this moment. Surround
Okay.
yourself with people who will pray over you, who will look at you and who will validate that what you have gone through is traumatic and what you're feeling is okay, but want to push you, want to push you towards God, always pushing you towards God. And you may not like it. You may
Yeah.
not like what they say, but if you trust them that they love you and they hear from the Lord and they've
Mhm.
proven themselves, then know that they have your best interests at heart.
That's really great advice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me, Angie.
Yes, and we will be back talking with you hopefully soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
All righty, bye.